Hello, everyone, and so I'm happy to be with you today. And I'm going to talk about the Yellow-Breasted Barbet, the vocal behavior of this group breeding species. So the Yellow-Breasted Barbet, it's a member of the African barbet family, and it's a non-migratory bird that live in pair on small social group up to 11 individual. And they defend the territory year-round, and they also emit loud vocal duet and chorus. And so during a couple of years, I studied the vocal behavior of the species in Djibouti. And this is the typical habitat of the species in this country. They particularly like such kind of sandy riverbank because it's a cavity nester species. So they dig cavity within the sandy riverbank, and they use it as roosting site every night. All the group sleep inside the cavity, and they also use it as nesting site. And the territory of each group is organized around such a roosting place. And it's also happened that these species use natural cracks in cave, for example. So here it was a picture I found when I was exploring an area in a mountainous place, and I found actually a group of barbet living inside this cave. And it was interesting because they were actually sharing this cave with also bat species who were roosting there. So during 3 years, I and my team, we were in Djibouti to make different experiments with different playback experiment. We used passive acoustic monitoring. We combined direct recording with audio and videos to describe the vocal repertoire of the species and also the social behavior, and specifically in the context of the collective and coordinated vocal displays. So we wanted to know how do they exchange information within the group to agree to perform a collective duet and chorus. So there are already 2 papers published, one who focus on the vocal repertoire of the species and another one about how they initiate duet and chorus. So I will quickly summarize the main result of it. So the vocal repertoire of the species was not well described. So during the study, I focused a lot of time of describing different vocalization and understanding the potential function of this vocalization. And so far we could describe like 4 different call type. The cohesion call. So I hope you can hear it. This is a long range vocalization, and it has a function within the group. So basically when one group member starts singing such vocalization, other group member in the vicinity will react. Either they will approach the emitter or they will reply with the same call type. There's also the soft call. And this call is used for very close interaction when the birds are on the same tree, for example, and especially when they are close to their roosting site, they will tend to use soft vocalization to maintain contact. There's the alarm call. So this is when there's a predator or any potential threat. And finally, the woo call. And this one, it's again a kind of short range vocalization, very soft. You can barely listen to it you need to be very close to the barbet to actually be able to hear it. And it seems to have different intragroup functions, so I will talk about it. So the first function is apparently during nest relief, when adults are meeting each other at the cavity entrance. And so when they are doing that, one individual will use the woo call, and the other one will reply with kind of rattling calls. And apart from this vocalization, there is also the duet song sequence, which is described as the repetition of the same couple of syllables, the 2-2-2. They repeat over and over from the start to the end of their song sequence. And at the introduction of this song sequence, they used to perform also a series of chewp notes. And so this is how it sounds. The female is a little bit higher than the male in terms of frequency, but they sing the same song type. And what we have found is that actually this introductory vocal sequence that they use to start duet and chorus song, there are two variations of this chewp note. There's the low chewp note and the high chewp note. And actually, these chewp notes are the intragroup signal they use to send the information that the group has to start to sing, to display in chorus. And what we found is that the leading individual, the one that starts the group display, use a higher number of high chewp notes than the following individual that join the leading individual to create the chorus. Also, we have found that these leading individuals tend to combine the chewp note sequence with a visual display with the tail. So it raises the tail and fan it. And so this tail display occur at the very beginning, so during the chewp note and the start of the song sequence. And so actually the initiation of a group display, it's a multimodal signal in this species. And so typically in the field, this is how a group vocal display will be performed. First of all, the group members, so they are like in their territory, so they will need to meet first to reunite to if they want to create a chorus. So they will use cohesion call first to localize each other. And once they are reunited, they will start with chewp notes and tail display, and then quickly switch to the duet or the chorus sequence. And after that, we observe that sometimes there is one individual after this display that will use the woo call. So the same kind of call they use during nest relief. So they can also use it just after a group display. And we are not sure exactly why they are doing this at this moment, but we suppose it's a kind of post-conflict affiliative behavior, maybe to reduce the stress after such, or to reinforce the bond between individual. And so overall, you can see that the group display, when they want to perform a chorus, so there are different kind of intra-group communication that happen before and after such a group display. And regarding the context, so especially I was interested about the interaction between neighbors. I used passive acoustic monitoring during March last year. I used the song meter micro, so I was putting this song meter close to each and every cavity. And the important thing is that at that time, they were all at the same breeding stage. They were all having eggs or chicks, so they were always around their roosting and nesting place. And I recorded the 3 hours early in the morning and 3 hours late in the afternoon in 11 group. And as you can see on the on the right side, so the mean number of vocal displays, so it could be either chorus or duets, is higher in the morning than in the afternoon. And what I was interested is to know if this group vocal display, duet and chorus, serve primarily for between group interaction to defend the territory, or is it more something related to intra-group interaction? So, for example, to maintain cohesiveness, especially since they are raising chicks, maybe the chorus will help to reinforce the bond and help to coordinate the cooperative feeding of the young, for example. And so what I did is that I classify the different chorus that was recorded from a focal group according to different contexts. So the first context is that there is a neighboring group that starts singing and the focal group is answering. So in that case, I classify this interaction as between group interaction because the focal group answered another group. The reverse situation is the focal group starts singing and after there is a neighbor group that answer. So in that case, I classify it as an answered spontaneous display because it was first a spontaneous display and it got answered. And this has to be answered within a range of 5 minutes. And if there is no answer from neighbors after a spontaneous display for the focal group, I classify it as an unanswered spontaneous display. And here is an example with the song meter, how it looks like in the field. So here we have 3 song meter for each is like it's for one group close to their nesting cavity. And you can see that there is a chorus that starts first at SM1. And then they got an answer on SM2. And then the third group here start also to do a short answer. And so in that case, for each group, I will classify as follow. So there will be a spontaneous answered display. Here it's a between group interaction and here between group interaction. And so by doing this classification, I then calculated the relative proportion of the group vocal display according to these different contexts. And I found that birds used duet and chorus mostly during between group interaction. So they used it mostly to answer a neighbor, especially in the morning. And one thing interesting is that if you look in the afternoon, the relative proportion of spontaneous and not answered display tend to increase. So it could be interesting to investigate whether the function of duet and chorus evolve during the day. So maybe it could be in the morning much more related to between group interaction, but at the end of the day, more about group cohesiveness, for example. And regarding the mechanism of song coordination, so I selected only the duet because it was quite difficult to analyze chorus like from one recording. And what I was interested, it was to know if the barbets can actually adapt interactively their tempo of singing. Because in some species of barbets, it is known that they are not capable of fine temporal adjustment. So each individual sings with its own rhythmic pattern. But it's some other barbet, it seems they are capable of some coordination and some adjustment of the tempo according to what the partner is doing. So what I did is that this is the song of Yellow-Breasted Barbet. So it's the repetition of this motif, this 2-2-2, and it sounds like that. And I use the interval between the 2-2 to calculate the tempo throughout the song sequence. And I use the time series analysis approach to investigate how one individual is capable to adjust his tempo according to the tempo modification of his partner. So the first thing I did is to transform it as a time series analysis. So you have the duet sequence here, and here is this 2-2 interval duration, and each point it's a motif. And so one thing I found is that actually there is a trend. It's similar to every male and female, every duet and every pair. So they start with a short tempo, but then this tempo like decrease over the like through the duet song. So it seems that they are progressively slowing down the tempo. And actually this was a problem because I was interested by the variation, how quick variation of one individual affect the tempo variation of the other. So I just detrend the signal, and then I could focus only on this variation of tempo without this trend, and then could use this cross-correlation function to see if that there is some like if the time series behaves in the similar way according to male and female. And so before the cross correlation, there was another problem, is that usually the cross correlation is done on evenly spaced time series. It means that the point has to be on the same time grid. But in the case of the barbet, since I used the interval motif between these two, it was not evenly spaced. So I couldn't apply directly the cross correlation function. So what I did is that I used the binary time series analysis to do it. So there's a package in R that allows to do such kind of analysis. So basically, it takes the unevenly spaced time series and then create a binary time series both for the male and the female, and then merge it. So the result is that we preserve the variation of the tempo, but this time we have at the same time grid for both the male and female. And so we can apply the cross correlation on it. And the result is that I couldn't find any evidence of tempo and interactive tempo adjustment. So I would like to thank my supervisor, Tomasz Osiejuk, and also my colleague that helped me in the field. And thank you for your attention. Sorry for my voice. I'm sick, actually. I have a cold. And just last point. I don't know if some of you know about Friday for Birds, but so Friday for Birds, we have a website, and it's about gathering people that work on birds in Africa. And so each Friday we have a webinar when one guest is invited to present his or her work about birds in Africa. It can be about bioacoustic, it can be about conservation, physiology, migration, anything related to bird in Africa. So if there are people that would like to participate, feel free to contact us. And if you want to present, then your presentation will be put on YouTube for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was a lovely presentation. Your voice was absolutely clear throughout. Do you have any questions? We are a little bit over time, so let's just take the one at the back there in the auditorium before moving on.
Thank you for the talk, Mathieu. I wanted to ask in the displays that they do where they raise their tails, you said that the duets are used mostly in these morning interactions between group. Do the groups see the tail raises as well in that duet, or do you think that the tail raise is only part of the sort of intra-group bonding?
Sorry, I have a problem with the audio. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. It's about the tail movement that they use in synchrony during the duet. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that something that's visible in these between-group interactions in the mornings, or is it something that's just a within-group signal, do you think?
So it's within the group. So usually when two groups are interacting, they are interacting usually from distance. So they are quite far from one another. The first reason is that they live in open area, so there is not much trees to display on, and they have a very, very loud signal that can propagate. Like you can hear them if there is no wind, even from 1 kilometer far on the flat area. So actually, it's rare that group interact directly. They do it from distance. So the state display, it's dedicated only for the group member on the same tree. So what's happened is that before starting a duet or chorus, they first reunite. They need to be very close to another. There's no. It's very rare to witness a solo song in this species. Usually, when there is a pair with a territory of or a group with a territory, there won't be any solo song. It will be only duet and chorus. So what's happened is that if they want to sing, they need to be first close to one another. And once they are reunited, usually there will be one individual that will emit chewp notes and spread the tail, raise the tail, and this will be the signal. And then the other member who are close to the bird will react instantly.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you, Mathieu.
Yeah. Okay.